Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Partially Optimistic Podcast. I'm Jay.
I'm Kagan.
I'm Calum.
And we're the Partially Optimistic Podcast.
Partially overly optimistic.
Not the Partially Over Optimistic Podcast. That would not be good as far as the anagrams go.
The Poop Podcast.
Okay, we are. We're officially the Partially Overly Optimistic Podcast.
Perfect.
All right.
The perfect partially over optimistic podcast. Poop.
Poop.
Poop indeed.
I like that. Well, basically, today we're just going to discuss a couple topics that are on our minds. Day and night, keeping us awake.
Cannot sleep.
No sleep. The first one I'd like to bring up is everything we post is online forever.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter if you put it on there and you delete it. It's just out there. And there's several consequences to that, especially as we get into our podcasting hobby. You know that on Twitter, what you can do is you can type your handle and then just type a word after it, and it'll show you your association with that word.
Wow. So that probably explains some of, the cancel culture and how people are finding all these risque old tweets of celebrities, because all you have to do is type a Twitter handle of a famous celebrity and then some profanity after it.
Yeah.
Kevin Hart, homophobic.
That's
not what you do when you're good.
Exactly. You can definitely find
and it's that easy to find someone to cancel something.
That's what they did to Brother Nature. For those of you who don't know who Brother Nature is, he's that guy on Twitter that he kind of got a name for himself hanging out with all these animals, particularly this doe named Canella. He's just feeding it. And
was it not like a constrained doe? He just hung out with a doe that happened to... Okay.
Sorry, doe.
Yeah.
A deer?
A female deer. And he hung out with this doe, Canella, and other animals, and he just kind of became on Twitter known as Brother Nature. He's kind of carrying what Steve Irwin left.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Even though, Steve
Big
Irwin's...
call to put
that is
Steve Irwin on this random dude.
We love you, Steve Irwin. But I will say that he had some tweets in the past. He was talking about some sort of Nazism or something like that in a joking manner, but still it was like a little bit too real, not too real, but too over the line.
Yeah.
And he just they tried to cancel him. They were not successful. I think for the better, because I feel like people can learn and grow from that, but it did hurt him a little bit. It hurt a lot of people's views for him. And so I kind of think that no matter what you post, you kind of need to really take a step back and think about it.
But also, should it be possible for you to be canceled for some dumb thing you said a while ago? I totally understand why that would happen, but also, people change and all that jazz. Are people never allowed to be like Kevin Hart, for example?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, he's homophobic, but also, are we not giving him any room to be better than he was 7 years ago?
Well, he made some homophobic comments, and he is a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily meaning that makes it okay.
But it wasn't a joking manner.
And I would say that, I think you should have the ability to grow from it, but as I feel like we've discussed several times before, you do have to, there is maybe some justice to be brought, right? I mean, if you...
Yeah, cancel culture has the benefit of taking down people who can be seen by the public as invincible. Harvey Weinstein, brought down by the Me Too movement, which is kind of like a subset of cancel culture, and, he probably wouldn't have been brought down otherwise unless it was called by the masses and large public outcry was brought up against him.
That's true.
But he's a legitimately bad dude, you know? I mean, who am I to say? But he's he wasn't getting any better.
Yeah, I think we can all agree he's a legitimately bad dude.
But he wasn't getting any better and stuff. Kevin Hart, this dude was his worst crime that I was aware of was making, being the same character in every single movie.
That's true.
And he gets canceled or whatever years after he made these comments. Same with James Gunn. And I watched this thing and read this thing. He made Guardians of the Galaxy, a movie where people grow, like, just in general. Like, that's kind of like the point of the movies. And people were like, oh, well, I know that maybe you're a different person than you were when you made all these comments, but screw you, dude, you made them once, and that's not okay. It's like, he hadn't done anything in years that we're aware of, but he's, like, gonna get canceled now because of this thing. It's like, is there a statute on limitations for, being a piece of trash? Like,
so to play the worst role on any podcast, devil's advocate,
well,
nobody likes
great.
those. Do you have a place to judge the crimes if you're not really like the one affected by them? You're not part of, if Kevin Hart made a bunch of homophobic comments in the past, who are you as a straight man to choose whether that's cancelable or not?
That makes a lot of sense. I'm just a dude, so no, I have no say in any of this. I'm just saying that I think, I don't know, like, let's say if someone said something...
I clue.
But I don't know. That podcast right there. I don't know.
Dude. The new name, Poop, is out the window.
Poop
We are
is
now
out the window.
we think, but we don't know podcast.
But if someone were to say something where, like, it would affect me, and, like, they were to say something like racist, I can't think of someone who has been canceled for saying some racist remark. Can you guys think of something?
That could be.
It's not Betty White. I said this last time the conversation came up. It's
No,
not Betty White. She's an
what's
angel.
her name? Rose?
No, it's not Rosie O'Donnell.
O'Donnell.
Did she say a
Whose
bunch
cooking
of
show got
Yes,
taken
it's
away?
That's who I'm
show.
thinking of.
Whose cooking show got taken away, Jay?
Oh my goodness!
Don't pretend like you don't know, man. Just
No,
We all know who we're talking about. Give that a quick Google search.
We all know what you do.
I looked this up recently, and basically she also at one point was asked, so what would you think of like a plantation style wedding? And she was just kind of like, oh, with like an all black service cast for it.
Paula Deen?
I see no problem with this. Paula Deen.
You know what I typed? You know what I googled? I just I googled racist cooking show. The idea of the whole show.
It was just, Paula Deen's show, never once about food. It was just a lot more of her being like, only these kind of people would eat this meal.
I feel like these are interesting discussions that should be talked about even further, dive deeper into. But if we bring it back to the smaller scale, as far as like what is something that you, Calum, or you, Kagan, can post that could potentially hurt you in the future? Yes, it could hurt you if you maybe come on the rise. I don't know, maybe doing like a wildly successful podcast show or something.
I mean, obviously, yeah. Because that's something that's relatable. We're gonna have to deal with it. I literally, so this is my thing. So I am Christian, and I have Christian values, I guess. And that's not okay sometimes. Like, the world that we live in now, you can't, like, just be the dude that says, like, oh, this is what the Bible says. Because, like that's, it's, like, people that, like, are thinking against you, and you're, like... It's, like, the same people who you're, like, man, it's crazy that you're racist because you've lived in this world for your whole life, and it's... You can see where it's going, so I don't understand how you're racist. That's how I feel sometimes with certain things that I'm not going to bring up right now, but it's important that because no matter what you like believe or whatever, like as a Christian, you need to like love people first and like realize that whatever they're going through or who they are as a person doesn't condemn them or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so you get the loud Christians who are just saying everyone's going to go to hell and I hate everyone and I'm not going to serve you or whatever because I get to make those decisions. And I feel like those people are wrong. But if I associate myself with Christians in general, I feel like at some point that could, it could suck for me. People will just make assumptions about me. That's the only one personally that I think.
I feel like assumptions can definitely be made about someone, knowing about their background, not having met the person or the person. You could think you could meet a person and you could be totally cool with how they are and how they act toward you, and then you realize like, oh, like maybe they're of this religion and like, or they are of this sexual orientation, and there are certain people out there who will take a look at those things and maybe kind of have their perceptions changed about these kind of people.
Yeah, because it's like an assumption of like a hate that you have just because like maybe you disagree with somebody, but like you don't disagree with people on every like single thing. It's just like it's the assumptions, and that could cancel me one day. Who knows? I don't know what I would say. I don't know what I would go off about and be like, this is just what I think, and people would be like, he's a piece of trash. Cancel the
and his friends.
Yeah, and his friends on the Poop podcast. From the moment they said the name, I was like, this is gonna be crap.
So, on a slightly different note, as I'm applying to a lot of jobs recently, I'm a soon-to-be college graduate.
We get
it's
it.
a
Oh
huge
my
flex. In the case that this podcast doesn't work out as a form of employment,
Because this is number one.
it's literally
Then it's
not number. It's not number one.
He's missing
actually.
an exam to do this right now.
Kagan, it's actually not number one. It's number 2.
Oh, interesting.
Poop
Because it's poop.
Okay,
Come into your ears.
Poop straight into the ear sockets.
The speed of sound. Anyway.
So, as I'm applying at companies, a lot of my courses right now revolve around how to properly make yourself look approachable to these companies. And the most often reaction is, okay, I need to make my LinkedIn acceptable to these employers. But it's going beyond that at this point to Facebook, your Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And, these employers are looking at your past history on these sites, checking if you're a reasonable person. And one guy's reaction to that in one of my courses was, what if I just don't have a Facebook or an Instagram so I could just avoid them seeing anything they might dislike?
Just delete it real quick.
Just get rid of your Instagram and your Facebook, or just never make one.
You could archive some of those things.
The thing is, one of the speakers talking to us said, that's even worse. You look like you're an antisocial person, like you don't like to have friends or keep in contact with friends, that it just presents a bad image if you're just not having these common forms of social media. So it's a lose-lose situation, unless you just create this Facebook that you intend from 7th grade to tailor to corporations when you're older or something like that.
That's
if
true.
Companies are doing that far back, they're probably skimming very quickly, but it's reaching a point where you have to make sure all of your online presence is approachable to these companies, especially if you need something like a security clearance at some of these companies. You can't form a strong political leaning in that case on Facebook.
Absolutely. And, you really think about what are the things that people can see. If your Facebook is set to private, only your friends and family can see it. But what can people see? Photos of you. I feel like that's one of the first things when you look up something. Maybe they made it so you can't look at their albums or their pictures. You can only look at their profile pictures, their cover photos, and photos they've been tagged in.
Yeah.
And so in that case, what if someone else has a picture of you that they find funny and postable, and maybe even acceptable for online? Like, look at this. Look at he's taking like 2 shots at once, and he looks funny. Looks like he's having a good time. But other people see that, like companies and stuff like that.
And if you privatize your account, then those tagged photos are going to be the only things showing up to them. So it goes beyond you tailoring your Facebook. It goes to you making sure that your friends are respecting your very tailored Facebook as well.
You know what bothers me about all that? It's you're expecting perfection out of just real people who are just people. If these CEOs that are, 50 or whatever right now, if they had that when they were kids, it would suck. They wouldn't be in the position they're at.
A lot of racism.
Yeah, it's like, why in the world...
Justin Trudeau.
Justin Trudeau. A name that I've heard several times but I'm not aware of.
The Canadian Prime Minister, you madman.
Yeah, man, how do I live on this planet? But it's just
Name the Mexican president right now.
You got it. Albino
Trudeau.
But,
brother of Justin Trudeau.
He was like, we'll skip America, go down to Mexico.
Go a little more south.
But, so it's just weird because, like, it's these people who are like, oh, we only want the best for our company. And it's like, dude, you don't know the person based on their social media.
And even so, you should be entitled a private life outside of the workspace.
Yeah, a racist private life.
If you choose to be racist, gay and guy endorses racism behind closed doors confirmed.
Just letting everybody know. Interesting. It's alright, there's like 1,000 Kagan guys, so that's how I'm able to hide.
They weren't supposed to know our last names until episode 100.
Dang.
It's okay, they don't know how old we are.
That's fine.
But I absolutely agree. Should there be a discussion on, so should someone just be required to play the game in a sense where it's like, if I am trying to gear for a higher paying job or a higher, something that needs security clearance or something like that,
should I say, NASA, this post you can look at the beginning of every single description.
Well, should I be like, should I live my entire life accordingly based on what I post and stuff like that, or does there need to be this society-wide discussion on certain things? Like we should have the right to our own private life in certain things online.
I think at a certain point it's absolutely necessary. If you're giving somebody a job such as the President of the United States, you probably want access to look at his background and look at his posts in the past. If he was making a lot of racist posts, you probably want to know about that.
Do you guys have? Well, maybe you don't need to explain.
No, I'll explain. Whatever this is, I'm going to answer.
No, do you guys have Finstas?
What?
I do not have a Finsta, and he is a boomer, so no.
What is a Finsta? You kids in your separate little... I don't understand where your words are coming from.
A Finsta is essentially a fake Insta.
No, but I have a Linsta.
A Linsta?
It's a fake LinkedIn.
What? Yeah.
I have one to hang out with the corporate bros, and then I have another one to associate with the corporate.
A LinkedIn. What's a fake Facebook then?
We're not clever enough for this.
A double F Facebook.
Well, I do have a FewTube. YouTube channel.
And nobody got to know about what I'm watching.
This is definitely going on my podcast.
What's the point of a Finsta?
Well, from my understanding, because I also don't have a Finsta.
He says.
But I know.
You lies.
That you guys know of. But there are plenty of people I know who have Finstas because they have their original Instagram account that they created however many years ago. I didn't start using Instagram, I think, until 2012.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
So, back in the old...
So late to
he
the
had
party.
the old UI. When was it? When was
the right time to get to the party?
What was the start of this party?
No one gave me an invitation. They were more like, wait, you don't have one? I'm like, well, I guess I better fix that. I think Instagram came out in 2011. I came onto the scene in 2012.
Fuck.
People suck and we're done with that topic now.
Poop.
Poop.
So, I'm going to start off with a banger of a sentence. So, today, 95% of food waste in Korea is recycled. Now, try and think of how much in America is probably not just thrown in a landfill.
Or let's think about it like this. What in the world do you mean food waste is recycled? What does that mean?
So,
people are just eating other people's
people
half-eaten
just
burgers?
they grab it right out of the trash and they're like, that's looking like a snack.
So you mean that...
This is literally snack size now because the last person ate part of it.
90%, 95% of food waste is recycled into compost, animal feed, methane gas, or solid fuel.
Isn't methane gas bad?
Methane gas is a form of energy. It's not the cleanest of energy, but it's cleaner than coal.
But aren't
energy.
cows farting a lot and ruining the ozone? Am I thinking of the wrong thing?
No, you're thinking of methane, but but it's also a very harnessable energy source. And, while we don't currently have 100% solar power energy...
why don't we just put in a big roof over the cows and harnessing the methane gas if it's such an issue?
Okay, dude. You think I'm an electrical engineer or something?
You're right. That would be the exact thing.
For those listening,
if I could have
I am
an
electrical engineer.
If I could have a tube reaching to the bottom of my seat, I can definitely give myself a couple extra miles.
I'm so mad with how this conversation has turned.
He's trying to talk about
I was ready
we're
to...
just like, but what about farts, dude?
Okay, 95%, that is a lot. That is near perfect. I mean, 95%, that's an A.
America is known for just throwing out ridiculous amounts of food. We've all worked at Target, and we've seen what happens in the grocery
All of our
department.
secrets, man.
I'm throwing away all the personal information. You bring me on, here's my social security number.
But, okay, so...
Call me.
That is a fascinating statistic. Do you have the one for America? Because I don't think it's anywhere near.
I do not, and I'm so upset you called me out on this.
Actually, I have it right here. It's 12%.
Yeah,
I just checked my
definitely
watch.
not making that number. Just check my watch.
7:09 p.m.
So, but when my girlfriend, Korean national, visited America
Andy has a
recently,
girlfriend. Man, perfect Calum over here. Just adding
I'm an
all the
electrical
stuff to make
engineer.
it
I have a girlfriend. Did I mention I hit the gym today?
Oh my gosh.
But when my girlfriend visited recently, she was just so uncomfortable when we went to a restaurant, and she had to just throw her leftover food in the regular trash bin. She thought it was the grossest and strangest thing to her.
Super important question. What was the restaurant? But don't say the real one. Say something like super close, but like not quite the same.
Florist Home.
Florist Home?
Florist Home. You guys probably just don't know the
this a
restaurant. Why
local
does
restaurant?
it matter?
Is it a local restaurant?
Yes, it's a local restaurant.
I thought you were gonna say like Kicked Monald's or something.
Can
like
you
that.
think of like any Kick Monald's? Nowhere else in America has a McDonald's. You heard it here first. Whoa, don't just give us away like
So we're Americans now. No, that's... Calum, that is fascinating, all right? I'm just trying to think.
So, anyway, she found it disgusting. So how it works in Korea is you have to go to the store by law and purchase biodegradable bags, and you have to throw your leftover food waste in these bags.
Californians still complain about paying 10 cents for plastic bags.
That's crazy.
And you're gonna make them pay for biodegradable bags that they are forced by law to go and get?
Yes.
No wonder America hasn't done it.
Isn't there like a country in like Europe that will give you change every time you just get, or like they'll give you back something every time you throw away, even just like a bottle?
So Korea's kind of like the opposite in that, if you don't do this service, they'll just find the shit out of you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They
Find
will
the
find
heck out of you guys.
Watch my profanity.
Oh, profanity.
So, they, in some like apartment complexes, to deal with this, they've also like implemented scales to measure the amount of waste that you're producing, to cut that number, that 95%, to get it even higher up. So you measure how much, and you're charged for how much food waste you produce. So what's the most viable solution if you're being charged for food waste that you're producing? Don't produce food waste.
There's like... The government's real involved in these people's lives.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Shouldn't you
Is
have the
it-
freedom to be a piece of trash?
I mean, if you being the piece of trash that you are, okay,
Me specifically.
is affecting other people and harming their lives, like, food waste stacking up in garbage dumps is a real problem.
Maybe there's got to be something in between, because I feel like there is probably a basic human responsibility to maintain the world that we live in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, though, you make an interesting point. If maybe not everyone's up for being fined every time they want to use just one or two extra paper towels.
But we find people for littering.
That is true.
This is my thing, though, is like, I feel like the option should be given, and the government should pay for it. And then, like, once the option is given to us, I feel like a lot of people will take advantage of it.
That
It's
was
like
the
recycling
most
or whatever.
boomer thing I've ever heard you say. And the government should pay for it.
The government.
Government.
Maybe there needs to be, if they're going to do something like that, they need to give us the absolute easiest ways to be able to recycle. Is it recycle?
Yeah.
I think it's reciprocal.
Reduce. It's no, I think it's a reuse.
Whatever the triple R's are, there needs to be a way where, like, free of charge, like, you go in, you get one, the same place you get like your license or something, like, or the post office, just take a recycling bin or something like that.
Yeah.
Which those could probably be wasted in a landfill also, but maybe a biodegradable some sort of thing.
Yeah.
But you have the option to not be charged. The option is use your food that you're purchasing. Would you approve more of a system where you're given money like say like how some people receive money for turning in soda cans.
Mm-hmm.
You're given money for the amount of weight of. Actually, I can't even think of a way to implement that system. Some way of giving you money, maybe just a few quarters back from some sort of machine over the course of a month.
I want to be very clear that I think it's cool what Korea is doing.
I'm sure.
I really do.
But when does it impede on individual liberties?
That's what I'm saying, is like, I'm speaking as a poor person who cannot handle being fined for accidentally letting bread go bad. Like, I don't understand what you get fined for. So, like, if you threw away a pizza in the trash, how do they know you did it? Like, I'm confused.
Well, usually they'll find the apartment complex.
Oh.
When I was living in my dorm, they said that they would find
Hold on.
the dormitory.
Hold on.
Yes.
So, you were in Korea.
I don't know if you know this, but I studied abroad in South Korea.
Oh my goodness. So you actually were there. You're so well traveled.
You know how not funny this skit is? Because no one listening will understand that this is a running joke.
It'll be funny in about
whatever,
7
whatever.
episodes.
Yeah, it's 7 episodes.
Yeah,
When
give
Korea
me some
gets
time
brought
to build
up.
it up.
When Korea gets brought up 4 more times, and then people will be like, "Oh, I think this guy's got a fascination with
Because
Korea."
we know for sure that he's going to be talking about Korea.
So I think to kind of sum up what you're saying is that there needs to be something that brings us maybe closer. It doesn't have to necessarily be closer to South Korea in the way they go about it, but maybe something that brings us closer to South Korea in the way that we should be trying to get as close to. Everyone should be trying to get as close to 100% of using their food when they can. What does
Food
that mean?
waste?
Smaller packaging, maybe. I mean, like
But that would just increase the amount of packaging that people are using, increasing regular.
I was just wondering if there's a right answer to this, Calum.
I think that Korea has the best answer to this.
Okay. And again,
South
I think it's super cool.
Yes.
It's just,
South Korea.
I'm so poor. So,
Yes.
like, let's say I buy food, and maybe this will make me stop buying food. Maybe there's just so many benefits, and I'm just not in Korea.
intermittent fasting.
Intermittent fasting.
So here's the thing. I think it led to people being more responsible with their purchases at the grocery store. They thought more about it when they purchased meats or vegetables. They wouldn't just buy a bunch in bulk because they know if they go bad, then they're not just paying for food they just wasted money on because they purchased produce that went bad. They can't eat it. They're also going to have to pay for these bags.
You know what?
By the way, these bags are incredibly cheap.
I was going to say, you know what I'm thinking too is that I don't think, and I don't know for sure, I don't believe that these fines are like outrageous.
Yeah.
They're probably something along the lines of what we pay for in taxes for like the garbage man to come around, you know?
Actually,
Oh, no.
the costs for the bags are incredibly cheap.
Interesting.
From my memory, I might be wrong on
Because
this.
you were in Korea.
But my memory when I was in Korea was
You have to say it like that every time.
was that it could cost thousands of equivalent USD for if you were messing this up. That was to our dormitory, so maybe it's less for an individual home, but for our dormitory, if the dorm was caught throwing trash in the regular recycling and whatnot, then that would be on them. That would be $1,000 or $2,000 fine.
What exactly can you do to let's say I have I ordered a pizza and I ate half of it. It's been sitting in the fridge for 2 weeks. I don't want it anymore. What do I do to not get fined?
You go to any of the numerous convenience stores, the grocery store. You buy, I think it's like 10 bags for $1. They're pretty small bags is the thing because, you want to fill it up. You want to get it out of your house. It's rotting food.
Mm-hmm.
So you put it in there. You bring it downstairs. You throw it in the trash bin downstairs. The trash bin meant for organic, compost
So
materials.
it's just another trash can.
Yeah.
It's a recycle and then a food waste.
They have
and
their
then a regular
multiple
trash.
forms of recycling that I'm not going to
Is it
get
particular? So let's say you have chicken, like just. Let's say you have the best chicken you can have, like the non-GMO, free range, like super organic, put it in the ground, you grow a chicken tree, type stuff.
Pick the chickens when they're ripe,
Yep, exactly. And let's say you want to throw that away, and that will go into the ground just fine. You know, they'll just decompose. But let's say you also have like some Sunny D that you're trying to toss out also, and that Sunny D is like 95% not juice.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like other chemicals and stuff like that. Can that still be?
That would go in the food waste bin. I'm not sure what that exactly means. Liquids usually, okay, you're getting into some funky territories now.
Interesting.
So, I just would probably pour them down the drain. I mean, like when you have like trash here, what do you do with your old drinks when they go bad here in America?
Water doesn't go bad.
He only drinks water. You heard it here first.
But I don't know. Like I guess
Mr. Mountain Dew himself.
Yeah, Mr. Mountain Dew himself only drinks water.
But I guess I would just throw it down the thing. But so I'm not going to be charged for dumping that down.
No, absolutely.
But maybe juice is not a good example. Like you got your fresh milk, your freshly rotting chicken,
curdled milk,
your freshly rotting chicken, and then you have maybe like a candy bar.
Or something candy bar.
Well, like something that's just
even if it's something that's mainly not natural, not like a fruit or something like that, an organic piece of fruit, it's still gonna go in the food waste bin. After that point, I'm not entirely sure what they do with it. It probably gets separated based on type of food.
What about things with wrappers and stuff like?
You have to take the wrapper off. You take the wrappers off. You take any non-organic material off.
All right, fine. Curdled milk.
Curdled milk.
You can't pour it down the drain.
Then it's probably at a pretty solid state. Then you can just pour it in the bag.
Oh, but it's barely solid. Like there is mostly liquid, but there's some crap at the bottom.
Fill that bag up
with gross milk, and it's not gonna seep through. What kind of bags are these?
I mean, they're
canvas bags, aren't they?
I mean, it's not canvas. That would be so expensive. Just everybody has to go to the dollar store.
It's a recycled fishnet.
That's the reuse part. That's not the recycled part. That's the reusing the fishnet. But you guys are ruining this great idea South Korea's had. That's worked.
It's working. I just have questions. I'm honestly more on board with it now. The fact that it's just another thing.
If you're Korean and currently even live in Korea, please hop on our podcast and answer our dumb questions.
Please message us.
Yeah, call to action.
We'll provide it down in the.
Not like I'm gonna call my girlfriend or anything like that. That would be ridiculous.
Even as a girlfriend, we get it. Jesus,
so great.
Life is perfect.
So great.
But okay, no, I'm way more on board. Like immediately, I was against it. But now that you've talked me through it a little bit, it's just another trash thing. It's just another set of bags to buy. Like
it's not like
I totally understand.
It's not like the government supplies your regular trash bags as is.
It's just
so you're just buying a different set of trash bags.
So I'm totally chill.
I think if we think of it more big picture as far as what they're trying to do, I think reaching that 95%, lowering food waste and stuff like that, I think is an excellent thing to do.
But we produce so much food. So like if we started doing that, like that would be like a huge impact. I think that would be really cool. And I think people would be down for it too.
There just has to be systems to be able to...
I've done a 180. I'm all for this. It's me and Calum against you, Jay.
Oh.
So, I looked it up. According to one article, 40% as of 2012, 40% of American food is wasted.
Better than I thought. It's wasted?
Is wasted. So almost half of the
60%?
food, 60% is eaten. What do you mean what happens to the other 60%?
That makes a lot of sense. So when 95% is recycled in Korea?
That means 5% is just getting tossed out. So it's not going to the proper sources.
So however much of it is eaten in Korea, and then the rest of it up to 95 is...
Wait, now you got me doing like some intricate math. I'm like that one math meme with
Well, I mean, you just made me seem like an idiot, so I just want to...
Throw it right back at me.
Throw a dunce cap on the electrical engineer.
So 40%, that's not as bad as I thought.
I thought it was going to be like 15.
Yeah, maybe. I thought it was going to be less than... Like, I literally thought like 99% of our food for some reason is wasted. You think about how much they put in the grocery stores?
The statistic, though, with Korea we were looking at isn't the amount of food waste they produce. It's about the amount of food waste that is recycled. So probably like 1% of the food waste in America, probably less than that, is actually reused in a good way. Well, it all ends up at the dump.
That's what I'm saying.
So does Korea actually produce less food waste than us? I'm sure since you have to put it in a separate bin, it probably encourages you to make less food waste.
Like the fines probably encourage the making less food waste more than anything.
I like that though.
Let's do it.
Stop
Trump.
wasting foods.
Trump, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, so now you're naming the year we're in.
Crap. The 4 years that we're... Oh, gosh. 8? Oh.
So now you're naming the first term we're in. This is coming on 10 years.
But, no, it's just... President?
You mean the billionaire?
Okay, so for a second, I looked up food waste percentage in Korea real quick, and immediately I got 40%. And I was like, oh, that just threw everything out the window.
Yeah, so what you're saying is none of this matters.
But,
they just have an extra thing.
40% of the rubbish thrown out each day is food waste.
We're going to pretend
so
that you
is,
just say rubbish? This is America.
I'm just reading what the article told me. But I also don't trust the British, so I guess I shouldn't trust this article. And there goes a percentage of the audience.
Well, since you said that we have the same amount as 40 and 40, I guess we're doing just fine.
But all of our food waste is going directly into a landfill, while their food waste is getting actually used in
Who's doing
reasonable
that?
ways.
But creating more jobs. Like, do they just have, like...
Dude, okay, so this is one of the strangest things I saw when I was in Korea.
You were in Korea?
I was in Korea. When I was over there, they have these nice older women, ajumas, that just kind of walk around and they just kind of look through your trash and make sure everything's recycled correctly.
Oh, they got snitches. That's
They got
dope.
snitches. I don't really know who these ajumas worked for, if they worked for the government. I love something about saying work for the government. Makes them sound like there's some CIA operative or something like that.
Try saying the government instead.
The government.
Yeah.
Or if they worked for like a building to make sure that, you know, our building wasn't getting fined and they were just double checking our stuff.
So they were paid for that?
I don't know who at what level and when checks over the trash to make sure of this, but they said that they had been fined in the past. So somebody is checking this over and fines are happening. If you live in South Korea, please let us know.
Or not. Who cares?
We'll leave our...
Calum's already right here.
All right, and you lost the South Korean audience.
You went over there, stole all your good ideas, and came back and is now trying to implement them into America.
In America, we call that appropriation.
In America, we call that
This is
life.
good appropriation, though,
This
and
is-
I think we should appropriate some of this.
Into-
J for appropriation of good things. Anyway, I think we should send it to another break.
Yep.
Okay, so look. Jay does not support appropriation.
We've discussed it. And as a podcast, as the Poop podcast, we've decided that Jay doesn't.
We've decided, we come to terms. Anyway.
We're aware that everything that goes online stays online. So we'd like to apologize
In case
in
you're
advance.
just tuning in. I like, like myself, I like to listen to podcasts halfway through them and then go to the beginning.
Yeah, you want Tarantino this? Tarantino?
Tarantino.
Doesn't matter. Anyway, so while talking about cultural appropriation, I would like to bring up something that has nothing to do with cultural appropriation.
Interesting
Great
choice.
I was thinking the other day that I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's weird that the whole world is owned by like 4 companies. I think that's very strange.
What do you mean, is it good or bad? I'm dying to hear your argument for it being good.
Okay, when I say 4 companies, that's an exaggeration.
Of course.
I looked at
It's
a
actually
website,
5.
and it's broken down into like, you got like banks, media, food, like all that kind of stuff. And there's just a few corporations that are like the parent companies for all that. And so, for example, the fact that like with banks, it's like one kind of is in charge of most of one country, which I don't think is the worst thing in the world. But when you talk about like media, for example, it's real funny to make jokes about Disney owning everything.
Yeah.
But like, what happens when Disney owns everything? Right now, most of the good stuff we watch is Disney. It just is. And I think it's really weird because eventually it's going to be like they don't even know. They were confused about whether or not Deadpool would be R-rated, the 3rd one. That's insane. It's just, it should be. Like, that's just what the character is.
Media becomes more homogenized with less companies.
We get it.
And there's
$10
with
words.
less companies involved and less competition, ideas become less and less creative and less innovation is made typically.
And I feel like that's been happening.
Mm-hmm.
100%. Like with movies, people are just making safe movies. It's all the
Marvel
same
movies
movie.
are great, but they're incredibly safe.
Yes, exactly.
It's true.
And like they're doing that with just regular. Like you look right now, it's a challenge at all the movies that are coming out this month. I mean, it's January, so they're not good ones. But like, if you look at, oh gosh, but if you look at the movies that are coming out in a year, most of them are gonna be just, oh, this is this is an action movie. The plot is it's whatever. We just have a bunch of cool stuff we want to blow up, and we thought that we'd make a movie for it. And I think that sucks, like, because you have movie companies who aren't taking any risks because they're like, this is what makes the most money. This is what makes the most money. You just got to do this and then this and then this. And then you have 1,000 movies that are the same. And then you get a movie like Joker, for example, which has come out recently or not, because who knows what year or time it is. I think that is it's an okay movie. People were like, oh, it's so great, it's so good. Really, it's just different than what you've seen.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a movie critic. It was fine.
Joaquin Phoenix is...
He was good.
I liked his brother too,
He was really
Rivers
good.
Phoenix.
Yeah.
This
is just the relatable podcast. Like somebody, if they do listen to this, they're just gonna be in their car like, yeah, Joaquin Phoenix is great.
Yeah.
Subscribe.
What we gotta do is we gotta just say the safest stuff. That way we can make the most money.
Avengers is good.
But like, I genuinely think that movie, for one, there was some cool stuff that they did. It was like genuinely hard to watch. It was supposed to be like, and they just did really cool stuff. But like, I'm not gonna watch it again. Like, I don't really
incredibly
care enough to watch it
forgettable.
again. Yeah, like it was like, oh man, that's crazy.
Well,
like,
I think there's a reason Disney movies haven't gotten heavy award recognition, because they're relatively forgettable experiences. Besides the ones that we feel some sort of nostalgia for, probably. Like, I love Iron Man 1, but I realize that a lot of that is due to nostalgia.
Well, I mean, Iron Man 1 might be a good movie. I don't know what you're saying for that. Anyway, so I just think that it's weird.
I think it really you might get into a lot of trouble when it comes to, like, new... Like, I think banking is also a big one where you can come into problems. Because that's the whole thing with, like, the recession that we had. Like, that was, with all the banks.
The housing bubble.
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like with news, you could really run into some trouble, because if certain news organizations are all owned by these one or two companies, you're not getting the most unbiased stories. And you might be getting something that's, maybe it's a story about something, but the way that it's spun, or that it's spun. C-SPAN. The way that people spin it might be more pleasant to this one company that owns that news organization and also owns maybe the organization that's being attacked on by the story.
Absolutely. The Las Vegas Daily newspaper that my dad reads, he's been reading it for more than a decade. I can't remember exactly how long ago, but it was purchased by a relatively conservative figure. And my dad's a pretty liberal person, so it kind of destroyed the newspaper when everything started taking a very biased turn over time once it was bought out by this millionaire.
Dang. And also with, Disney owning ESPN, all the ex-football players are now saying, oh man, he's like a Hercules on the field. You just want us to go and watch your freaking movie, dude. It's all connected. It's all connected.
So on a slightly different note from actual media, one of the biggest changes from kind of the monopolization of industries is with airliners. In the early 2000s, there was not a checked baggage fee. This was another thing that Heather thought was insane when she got here.
Who's Heather?
My girlfriend from Korea.
Oh.
Because I visited Korea.
Oh.
So
you should tell us about that sometime.
I'll make sure to mention it.
It's so uninteresting.
So, as she got here, she had to board her American Airlines flight. Please sponsor us. And she was charged a $30 checked baggage fee. She thought that was crazy. And in the early 2000s, it wasn't like that, and most Americans reacted the same. But the few airline companies, one company decided that there should be a checked baggage fee, and because there was such a limited amount of airliners, everybody else kind of was like, yeah, that's a quick way to make some cash. If there were less if there were more competition, then there would have been outliers, and some people would turn to those companies and buy their tickets because they don't have the checked baggage fee, and that company would do better because they don't have that fee. But because of the limits on competition, this idea of charging $35 or $30 for checked baggage has become completely normalized, and that's purely because of the monopolization of these companies.
And they can be pushed out really easily. I mean, I'm an economics major, I'm not. But, like, you can be pushed out really easy because if a new company comes in, they have to charge a little bit more because they're on their own and they're not, like, part of these big things. And then they're immediately like, well, why would we pay more for that when we could just...
That crappier flight with the smaller planes, when we could just go with something like American Airlines.
And, like, does it affect us with, like, the, 4 things that own all the food in the world? Like, is competition just made up and they're just all slowly raising their prices instead of making us, like...
I mean, they absolutely could if they wanted to.
Where is my $5 footlong?
Yeah.
What?
We're officially up to a $6 footlong.
They got rid, dude. At least they got rid of the $5 footlong, and then slowly but surely, they what they had was that on certain days, Monday through Sunday, every day.
Monday through Sunday?
Why did I even name that? There would be a different sandwich that was worth $5 for footlong. Any other day that sandwich wasn't featured on, that you would have to just pay full price, which is like $8 for it. So I would always go on the specific days that I wanted that particular sandwich and pay $5. And then they got rid of that. So now no sandwich is $5 for a footlong.
And they're just waiting until all of us die and forget that there was ever a footlong for $5. Yeah. They're just waiting for the day. All these kids nowadays with their Finstas.
Remember when McDonald's used to have a $1 menu? Man, I just called out McDonald's. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because they deserved it. All right. Why is a McDouble now $3? That's ridiculous.
I thought I was losing my mind when a McDouble was $3.
You know how many spicy McChickens I've had?
Yeah. Several, because I can't have a double cheeseburger for $1. And it's because they don't do the frozen stuff anymore. Dude, did I ever go to McDonald's so that I could have some fresh beef? Get out of here. Get over yourself, McDonald's. We all know what you are, all right? So bring your prices back down and keep taking my money.
If like when Wendy's was like advertising their fresh never frozen kind of thing, like our beef is fresh never frozen. They could literally put their beef at 33 degrees and say fresh, never frozen.
Ew.
Because it's not technically at freezing temperatures.
So, I want to ask, we've discussed the problem. What, as a consumer, can you do to make your voice heard with things like this?
Oh, okay.
Realistically, it's very easy to complain.
Yeah, realistically, nothing. You could go to Wendy's and yell at their Twitter person because he's such a savage.
Well, I'd say one of the best things that you can do, which is going to sound so hipster, is shop local. One of the best things you can do is support those small businesses. Even if they have slightly higher prices, they're probably not engaging in some of the poor business practices, and as they get to a slightly bigger stage, they'll be able to lower those prices as they start buying inventory in bulk and are able to do bigger business plans.
I think that's an excellent idea. That actually reminds me of a point I wanted to make, is that how do these companies become owned under the 4 or 5 whatever companies there are? And I think a lot of it has to do with let's say you create your own company, you make your own business and you get pretty big, you get popular, maybe you open up a franchise, you open up a couple things, and then let's say this is like fast food or something like that, and then you get bought out.
Yeah.
They offer you a deal that they can afford as a company, that is like pocket change to them, but to you, this deal, if you let us own your restaurant, your super grandkids will be set for life. Well, what are you supposed to do? I mean, you're on the one hand, maybe you want to kind of keep this business and it's yours and it's organic and it's or organic like in its inception and all that stuff, and maybe practices. But on the other hand, it's like, unfortunately, money controls so much of the world that to guarantee that my families down the line, my generations and stuff like that will be safe, and I will be so comfortable I could buy a mansion and all that stuff. That might be something that is part of the reason why these big companies are as powerful as they are, because they have that money to be able to buy out any other company that starts to compete.
So, being bought out, it's typically a voluntary thing, but it can happen because your business is going under and you need financial support, and usually that can come in you get some rights of the company, and a lot of the rights get handed over to a larger company. But that
Like
won't always necessarily happen. And that won't always necessarily happen if you're voting with your wallet with somebody who values their principles over their profits.
But it's like their kid maybe won't value their principles.
You can't see into the heads of these CEOs. I'm sure everybody who was voting with their wallets towards this local company based in California in the 1980s, maybe you've heard of it, Whole Foods, as it expanded, they were probably thinking this is a company that values its principles over its profit margins. And now I went there for the first time recently, and oh my gosh, everything is so expensive, and there's just Amazon Prime things everywhere, and I swear to God, Jeff Bezos was going to come around the corner and throw some salsa in my cart or something like that.
Goodness. And you were going to buy it too, huh?
It was, and I would buy it. I would just say, okay, Jeff, you knew about my Prime benefits, I'll take it. But I'm sure everybody, when they were voting with their wallets, thought this is a respectable company. And then Whole Foods ended up selling itself to Amazon and became part of a larger business structure.
So should we, is there a point even in investing locally? Or can you be like, oh, okay, you know what? You got up and you franchised it and you turned into this big thing, so I'm going to go to the next local one and deal with it there.
I feel like that's possibly the only best solution, because there has to be some of those companies that don't expand to that great of a level.
But then you're spending extra money the whole time.
You're doing your part. Yeah, that's a good point.
You're taking a sacrifice, but every good deed, every morally good deed one does, comes with some sort of sacrifice.
You're a good man, Calum.
Thanks, man.
I think that's what this whole podcast has been about.
How good Calum is.
Calum's just been like, you can't recycle food. We're not going to do that. You're like, no, please.
Just one good man yelling at two just men who just really want one.
You know what podcast name definitely isn't taken? You're a good man, Calum.
Okay. So that's my perception on it. It's the best that a consumer can do in a situation where businesses, whether it be media or grocery stores, are slowly monopolizing.
I like that.
I like that. And also, you're a good man.
Thanks, man.
Good man. One day I want to be
Thank you for tuning into You're a Good Man, Calum.
Also otherwise called Poop.
This is Calum, and who cares about the rest of us?
You're not even Korean.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.